Good evening, everyone. I am Councillor Laura Binks, Mayor of Strathbogie Shire Council. I would like to welcome you to this council meeting of Tuesday, 19th of September 2023, being held at the Euro Community Conference Centre. Councillors, we've had some good sessions over the past few months around respectful behaviours and ways of working. I remind you all that we need to demonstrate respectful behaviours, and I hope I can count on you all to do so. I ask that you please keep this in the forefront of your mind during our meeting. In the end, if we don't show respectful behaviours, it is only a reflection of us on us personally, which will be shown to everyone present here at our meeting and joining on us online. I also advise that we are expecting Councillor Hayes-Burke to be joining us virtually due to her currently being on leave. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the places we live, work and play. We recognise and respect the enduring relationship they have with their lands and waters, and we pay respect.
Point of order. Taking point of order.
Yes, Councillor, what is your point of order?
Yes, I explained.
Can you sit down, please? You don't need to stand up.
The statement to council.
Can you explain what your point of order
Yes.
is in relation to the governance rules?
Yes.
Thank you.
If you allow me. Is a potential biased political propaganda statement based on a council motion of the 19th of the 10th, 21 on page 13, item 9.23. which authorise the Chief Executive Officer and the Mayor to enter into a Memorandum of Understanding with the Tattagong Waters Council. On the 28th of the 10th, 21, the CEO and the Mayor signed a legal agreement with the Tattagong Waters Council.
Can I just understand?
Sorry,
can I get you to? Can you please?
The point is being made, ma'am.
Can you get to
the signed document?
Excuse me, Councillor Weatherald.
Yes.
Can I ask you to please identify within our governance rules what your point of order is?
I am at that point, Mayor.
I don't need the preamble. I just want to understand.
This signed document has no legal standing in law and is not supported with a council motion passed and authorised the legal signing of the subject Memorandum of Understanding with the Tattagong Waters Council. This failure of council to authorise the legal signing of the Memorandum of Understanding renders the document without foundation in law.
Thank you, Councillor Weatherald. As per under section 62 of our governance rules, I do not uphold your point of order. So I will continue. We recognise and respect the enduring relationship they have with their lands and waters, and we pay respects to the elders past, present and emerging. Today, we're meeting on the lands of the Taungurung people of the Eastern Kulin Nation, whose sovereignty here has never been ceded. This public meeting is being streamed live via our website and made available for public access on our website, along with the official minutes of this meeting. All care is taken to maintain your privacy. However, as a visitor in the public gallery, it is assumed that your consent is given in the event that your image is broadcast to the public. It is also assumed that your consent is given to the use and disclosure of any information that you share at a meeting, including personal and sensitive information, to any person who accesses those recordings or those minutes. Council considers that the recommendations contained in the agenda give effect to the overarching governance principles stated in section 9.2 of the Local Government Act 2020. These principles are numbered 1 to 9 on pages 2 of the agenda. We welcome Tom to our public gallery. We've only got Tom in the room tonight, and anyone viewing us online through our council's live stream via our website. This meeting is being held in accordance with Strathbogie Shire's governance rules. If we have technical difficulties during tonight's meeting, which means we are unable to stream the proceedings live to the public, we will continue with the meeting given our public gallery is open. Voting by councillors at tonight's meeting will be held by a show of hands. If a councillor or an officer has a conflict of interest in a matter, they will be asked to leave the meeting and no discussion on the matter will commence until we are sure that they have done so. The person will then be contacted to rejoin the meeting after the matter has been considered and the vote concluded. CEO Solomon, are there any apologies this evening?
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. We have received an apology from Kristen Favaloro, the Executive Manager, Communications and Engagement for tonight's meeting.
Thank you, CEO Solomon. Councillors, are there any disclosures or conflicts of interest to be made under Rule 94 of our Governance Rules and Division 2 of the Local Government Act 2020? Yes, Councillor Rayburn, yes.
Yes, Mayor, I do. I have a general conflict on item 11.2.3, Community Strengthening Grants.
Thank you, Councillor Rayburn. And Director Tingay?
Thank you, Mayor Binks. In relation to item 11.2.4, while I have an interest, my interest is in common with a significant proportion of the Strathbogie population, and therefore I've got nothing to declare.
Thank you. And is there any further? No? Yes?
Mayor, can I ask a point of clarification? Item 5 on our agenda has got an apology leave of absence for Councillor Sally Hayes-Burke. That's not correct, is it?
No, that's not correct. We have Councillor Sally Hayes-Burke with us online and we can see her there. So, yes, she is on leave, but she has been able to join us for tonight's meeting. So thank you for clarifying that matter, Councillor Murray. Okay, councillors, we need to confirm the minutes and decisions of the ordinary council meeting held on the 15th of August 2023. Can I have a motion, please, and can you state what your motion is? Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move the recommendations as listed on page 3 of our agenda.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Rayburn. Thank you, Councillor Rayburn. Can I see a show of hands for all those in favour, please? And against? Councillor Dickinson. Are you intending to vote on that item?
Well, I wasn't at the meeting, so I didn't think I'd be able to vote. I can be corrected if I'm wrong.
Is that correct, Governance Officer? Okay, thank you. Thank you for that clarification. Okay, I declare that item carried. Thank you. CEO Solomon, do we have any petitions to be tabled this evening?
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. No, there are no petitions for this evening's meeting.
Thank you. Councillors, would any councillor like to make a report to the community? Councillor Murray?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make a report to the community about what I've been up to in the last few weeks. On October the 20th, August the 20th, I went to a community conversation. There was a community conversation in Avenel about the future of Australia Day. I understand, although I was an apology for that meeting, I'd like to start off by saying how good it was to see the Avenel community step up and tackle that particular conversation. It was a difficult one, but I understand it went well and they're waiting for some survey results. August the 23rd, I went to a Friends of the Library celebration of their 30 years of association with the Euroa Library. I'd like to congratulate the Euroa Friends of the Library for their hard work over those 30 years advocating for library services in our community. September the 1st, I went to the Voltan Recognised Group and the Long Walk Community Barbecue. Although not in an official capacity, I was there just as an observer on that day. September the 2nd, Euroa Youth Growers Festival was held at Euroa Secondary College, which I attended. And I'd like to thank the Euroa Secondary College Student Representative Council and their staff for putting on a fantastic show there. And I'd also like to thank the Strathbogie Shire officers who were in attendance on that day for their efforts. September the 4th, I went to the Euroa Historical Society AGM, and I'd like to congratulate the new committee that was elected on that date. September the 8th, dedication to the Nagambie Queen Elizabeth Memorial Garden. I attended, and I'd like to thank, in particular, Diane Grant for all her hard work over in Nagambie. Diane Grant, didn't I say? Sorry. Diane Grant, I meant. September the 12th, I was at the Euroa Friends of the Library AGM. I'd like to congratulate Lauren Gibb, who's the new president of that particular group, and thank Greg Carlson for all his hard work there over many years. September the 14th, I went to the Euroa Business Chamber meeting where they talked about the Euroa Show and Shine, and also talked about the new music festival that's coming up. It was well attended, and thanks to the hard work of Steph Swift. September 17th, I also went to the community garden launch, and I thank Laura Baker there for all her hard work and her committee in getting that off the ground, and for the speakers who attended and the 80-odd people who attended that as well, which was terrific. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Would any other councillor like to make a report? If not, oh yes, Councillor Dickinson.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. All of those people who have been asking me for months, when's the boardwalk opening? Well, it's now open. So go and enjoy yourselves. It's a great asset to the township and to the Shire. And the official opening from all the government representatives is on the 10th of October. And thank you to the 2 officers and the mayor who had a little unofficial opening, I think, last Monday.
On Monday. Yesterday.
Yesterday.
Yeah.
Yesterday.
Yeah.
You got on the screen pretty quick.
We sure did.
Okay, well, so a little unofficial opening yesterday, but the big one was the 10th of October. And get off my back, all those people who kept saying, when's the boardwalk opening? It's open.
Thank you, Councillor Dickinson. And yeah, I would like to say that yesterday we did officially open, well, unofficially, softly open. We celebrated that we have finished that, the Nagambie Foreshore Walk project, which is really exciting. It has been a project that's been going on for some time. Barriers are removed, so everyone can now walk along the 1.6 kilometre pathway from the Allura Beach to the Nagambie Lakes Regatta Centre. We're really proud to have delivered this project with thanks to the Victorian Government Regional Development Victoria Grant and the Australian Government Sports Infrastructure Fund, as well as Strathbogie Shire's council funding contributions. As Councillor Dickinson has mentioned, there is a community celebration which, if you check out our council website and social media pages, you'll see more information on that, which is happening on Tuesday, the 10th of October in the morning. There's quite a few projects currently on our Share Strathbogie page. We've got the Goulburn Region Tourism Partnership, the Euroa Magpie Statue Name and Colouring Competition, Euroa Community Cinema Community Choice for what movie to play next. The Draft Municipal Fire Management Plan, really important plan to check out and get yourselves familiar with. Flood recovery projects, the Avenel Township signage is up, as well as the Draft Euroa and Avenel Local Emergency Action Plan projects, the LEAP projects, which we've already seen being rolled out in Violet Town. So there's lots and lots happening. Please jump onto our really active engagement hub, share.strathbogie.vic.gov.au. September has been a month of the Youth Festival, and our Council Youth Development Officer and Community Directorate have been pleased to plan, support and deliver some great activities and initiatives across our townships, including the North East Skate Park Series, as well and the Youth Growers Festival in Euroa, which Councillor Murray spoke of, and the free youth movies, as well as other activities. Again, jump online and check those out. I also know that being school holidays, our libraries are doing some really fabulous workshop, and my niece and nephew, Sam and Hannah, participated in one this morning and came home with some very colourful and chomping dinosaurs. I know that there's some more activities in the libraries happening in Euroa and Nagambie throughout the school holidays, so jump online and check out those really great free activities for our community. It's a reminder of all the different things that we do at Council. from libraries to playgrounds, boardwalks, all sorts of activities. Next month, back in the youth sector, we'll have the Northeast Battle of the Bands as part of the Youth Here and Now Festival, a free event on Saturday, the 21st of October, thanks to funding through the Victorian Government Freezer program, and council officers are supporting that to make it happen. And that program is really important for the young people within our community to engage and play music and have a really great opportunity to do something a little bit different around town. Finally, on Saturday, the 14th of October 2023, Australians aged 18 years and over will have their say in a referendum about whether to change the Constitution to recognise the First Peoples of Australia by establishing a body called the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Voice. For accurate information on what the Voice is and how the referendum works, and to access an impartial information booklet, I encourage voters to visit the Australian Government website, www.voice.gov.au, and encourage you to all seek accurate information in making your decision on that important vote. We now move to public question time. CEO Solomon, are there any questions from the public this evening?
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. Yes, we have 4 questions for tonight's meeting. The first question for Tom Ma, and he's asked that I read them on his behalf. And thank you and welcome, Tom. The first question, the first 2 questions from Tom are, one regarding the Violet Town landfill. He asks, the requirements to operate the landfill at Violet Town that are to be met have been put in place by the EPA. Why is there still leakage dispersing, or leachate, I should say, dispersing from the site to the adjoining landowners? And Tom's second question relates to Curwins Bridge. As the Curwins Bridge is still closed, what is the costings to date that have been spent and then left to be spent to have this bridge be reopened? Tom, in response to your first question, that I advised due to the ongoing wet weather following the October 2022 flood events, Council continues to monitor the surface water and leachate at the closed Violet Town landfill. Please be assured that there is no indication that leachates are currently leaving the site and that the EPA are kept fully informed of the measures that Council is undertaking to manage leachate on that site. Additional measures have been put in place to manage some surface water on site, and these have been completed to the EPA's satisfaction. In relation to your second question, I would like to start by saying that Council is committed to a long-term sustainable future for Curwins Bridge. This is why we established the Curwins Bridge Community Panel and have been working hard to ensure the future solution for Curwins Bridge is driven by the community. Unfortunately, the major floods we experienced in October 2022 forced the closure of the bridge, and we are now working with the panel to investigate all options to reopen the bridge. Through this work, we have now designed and costings for several options, and these are: option 1 is for a like-for-like timber bridge replacement at a cost of $20 million. Option 2.1, rehabilitation of the existing bridge by steel and timber system at a cost of approximately $5.5 million. Option 2.2 is rehabilitation of the existing bridge using a steel concrete system at a cost of about $6.5 million. And option 3 was a construction of a new bridge with steel concrete system at a cost of about $29 million. We're now advocating very strongly to the state and federal governments for funding to make these project a reality. This has concluded an expression of interest for $7 million to the federal government's Growing Better Regions Fund. We're also planning a workshop to develop an advocacy plan where we're going to ask the community to seriously think outside the box to make sure we get the attention for future potential funding options. In the meantime, we have also received costings on the works required to open the bridge at 3 tonne, and we know that this will be in the order of $1.5 million. Noting that this option would only be a short-term fix while we advocate for funding for a long-term fix. However, we need to now investigate options to even fund this temporary measure. So thank you, Tom. The second 2 questions on are from Marie Ma, and Marie asks the following. Her first question relates to rates. The Shire approved a 3% rate increase in the budget 2023-24, and on receiving rates notices August 2023, it shows a 20.44% increase. Why such a high jump in the percentage increase? And Marie's second question relates to Belmatum Reserve. Where is this reserve on the asset register of the Shire? So thank you for your questions, Marie. In relation to the one regarding rate, the rate increase is set by the state government with the rate cap for the 2023-24 financial year being 3.5%. However, as part of Council's adopted rate increase approved in the 2023-24 Council budget, Council determined to apply a rate increase below the allowable cap of 3%. The main function of is to calculate the rates paid on the individual property is driven by the capital improved value, the CIV. The valuation of the property to determine the CIV is undertaken independently from Council on an annual basis by the Valuer General of Victoria. The rate in the dollar is then multiplied by the CIV value of the property, which determines the rate component. As part of the Fair Goes rate system, property owners may experience an increase or a decrease in their rates depending on the distribution. If you wish to appeal the process and the valuation of your property, details about how this can be done via the Valuer General's office can be found on the back of your rate notice. If you would like further guidance on this process, please do not hesitate to reach out for us. And in relation to your second question, Marie, Belmatum Reserve is owned by the Council and is on our Register of Land and Buildings. The Recreation Reserve forms part of our maintenance program, and we undertake slashing and grass cuttings of the grounds on a 4 to 6 week interval depending on the season. And thank you for your questions, Marie. And thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, CEO Salomon. We now move on to the officer report. So we move to page 7 of the agenda, item 11.1.1, planning applications received and planning applications determined 1st or 31st of July 2023. Director Frampton, may we have a summary of the report?
Thank you, Mayor Binks, and through you. As per Council's planning permit applications referral to Council policy, this report provides listings of all planning applications received and planning applications determined for the period 1 through to 31 of August 2023. The latest available planning permit activity performance figures are also attached in attachment 3. It should be noted that these latest figures are for the month of July due to the timing in which we receive those reports. It is noted that during this period, 1 to 31 August, there were 12 new planning applications received and 17 planning applications decided upon during the reporting period. There is a recommendation for Council's consideration printed on page 7 of the agenda.
Thank you, Director Frampton. Councillors, are there any questions or clarification for the officer regarding this item? Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Mayor. Director, I note with some a pleasing figure on the attachment there that 90% are done within the time frame, and I think that's a really pleasing result. Could you elaborate on that, please?
Can I just get you to put your microphone on? Thank you, Director Frampton.
Yes. Councillor Murray, thank you for your question. And through you, Mayor, if it's okay, I'll actually defer to Director Tingay on that question.
Thank you. Yes, certainly.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor Binks. Yes, it is exciting. percentage. We bat well above our weight at Strathbogie Shire Council in terms of our planning department. Obviously, we see a varying number of applications. Under the Planning and Environment Act, we have 60 statutory days to process planning applications, and for those who have applied, the clock starts and stops at particular intervals. But it's certainly something that we have been working hard to achieve, is that increase in our percentage time. Obviously, later in the agenda, we have our planning permits referral policy to council for consideration, and that within play has been able to assist the navigation and also the determination of planning permits under delegation, with now planning permits, generally speaking, with 5 or more objections coming to council. So officers have been able to determine under delegation as well. So it is a really pleasing result for us.
Thank you, Director Tingay. Are there any further questions or clarification? No? Okay. Okay, councillors, can I have a motion, please, and can you state what your motion is? Councillor Weatherill.
Laura, may I move the motion on page 7, the recommendation that council note?
Thank you.
1 and 2.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Rayburn. Seconded, Councillor Rayburn. Thank you. Okay, Councillor Weatherill, would you like to speak to the motion?
Councillor Murray brought to highlight the 90% figure, an outstanding achievement, and to the team of planners, very well done. That sort of reporting would make most shires green with envy, I would imagine. So please keep up the good work. There are many challenges in planning, and I've had a short discussion with our planning officer and asked for a briefing on planning so I can get a better understanding, because there's so much that has changed and I'm not currently over all of this rather complex subject. So well done, staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Weatherill. Councillor Rayburn, did you wish to speak to the motion? Any other councillor like to speak to the motion? If not, councillors, I'll put the motion to a vote. Can I see a show of hands for all those in favour, please? And against, and declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. I now move to page 9 of our agenda. Item 11.2.1, Rafi Community Action Group Incorporated Community Action Plan 2023 to 2027. Director Frampton, may we have a summary of the report, please?
Thank you, Mayor, and through you. Council supports community action groups to implement and drive projects that are important to them. Council supports action groups to facilitate a process whereby they undertake community consultation to come together and identify priorities for their community and create a 4-year plan. The Rafi Community Action Plan was developed through consultation engagement with the Rafi community. They've identified 4 priority areas and they're listed in the summary for you. The plan belongs to the Rafi Community Action Group to deliver and implement. The report represents the Rafi Community Action Plan 2023 to 2027 for noting to Council, and it acknowledges the significant contribution that the Rafi Community Action Group Incorporated have made and contributed in the development of this plan. There is a recommendation for councillors to consider on page 9.
Thank you, Director Frampton, preempting I think your last sentence there, sorry. Councillors, are there any questions of clarification of the officer regarding this item? If not, councillors, can I have a motion, please, and can you state what your motion is? Councillor Murray?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move the recommendation that's listed on page 9 of our agenda.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Rayburn. Thank you, Councillor Rayburn. Would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor Murray?
Just to say that congratulations again to the Community Action Group there, and we rely on action groups in our small communities to be involved and to get involved in planning and get involved in developing their community. So it's good to see the Rafi Action Group up and about and coming up with their plan.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Councillor Rayburn, would you like to speak? Any other councillor like to speak to this item? If not, councillors, I'll put the motion to a vote. Can I see a show of hands? All those in favour, please. And against, and declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. We now move to page 14 of the agenda, item 11.2.2, events, grants, applications received. Director Frampton, may we have a summary of the report?
Thank you, Mayor Binkson, through you. Council adopted a community funding model at the June 2023 council meeting. Event grants form part of this model and provide grants of up to $5,000 to eligible organisations and associations for events that align with the objectives of the council plan, provided they're submitted in line with council's event guidelines. Council has received 2 event grant applications for consideration tonight. One application was received from Nagambie Lakes Community House Incorporated to support the delivery of the Nagambie Community Carols on the 3rd of December 2023. The Carols event is an annual event attracting up to 300 visitors and locals. The application is for a total of $5,000, $4,881.20 in cash to help cover the cost of equipment hire and musicians, and $118.80 in kind for costs incurred for rubbish removal. An application has also been received from the Ruffy Tablelands Community Centre Incorporated for funding to support the delivery of the Ruffy Tablelands Community Christmas Party on the 2nd of December. This is an annual event that can attract up to 300 attendees. The application is for $1,618 in cash to help cover the cost of equipment hire and catering for the event. Both events will result in significant social and economic benefits to the Strathbogie Shire community and will be delivered in line with Council's events and regulatory procedures. Council has a budget of $50,000 allocated to event grants under the community funding model. Applications have been submitted in line with the event grant guidelines that were adopted on the 20th of June and have been assessed using the relevant assessment process. The current applications are of an acceptable standard and officers recommend them for funding. The recommendation is printed on pages 14 and 15 of the agenda.
Thank you, Director Brampton. Are there questions or clarification regarding this item from councillors? If not, councillors, can I have a motion, please? And can you state what your motion is? Councillor Dickinson. Can I get you to put your microphone on, please, Councillor Dickinson? Thank you.
I'd like to move the motion as recommended on pages 14 and 15.
Thank you, Councillor Dickinson. Do I have a seconder for the motion? Councillor Murray. Thank you, Councillor Murray. Would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor Dickinson?
Just briefly to say well done to both of these groups for putting in these applications and putting some cheer into Christmas. I know that I attended the last one at Nagambie and it's a great community effort, and I'm sure the same goes on with the other applicant being the Ruffy Tablelands Community Centre.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Dickinson. Councillor Murray, would you like to speak? Any other councillor like to speak to the item? If not, councillors, I'll put the motion to a vote. Can I see a show of hands? All those in favour, please. And against? And declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. We now move to page 20 of the agenda, and Councillor Rayburn has declared a conflict of interest in this item, so he is leaving the room at 6:33 p.m. I'll just wait for the doors to close. Okay, the item is 11.2.3, Community Strengthening Grant 2023 to 2024 allocations. Director Frampton, may we have a summary of the report, please?
Thank you, Mayor, and through you. Strathbogie Shire Council's Community Grants Program provides an opportunity for groups to undertake projects that complement the community vision and the strategic focus areas of the Strathbogie Shire Council Plan. At the council meeting on the 20th of June 2023, council adopted a new community funding model incorporating a range of community funding opportunities for the community and adding consistency across council's application, assessment and decision-making process. As per the adopted community funding model, The community grants program features 3 streams, the first being community strengthening, the second community conversations, and then the third a quick response grant. This report only relates to the community strengthening stream. The Community Strengthening Grant opened on the 26th of June 2023 for applications and closed on the 7th of August 2023. Officers received 15 applications in total. Officers deemed 1 application ineligible based on Council's eligibility criteria, and 14 applications proceeded through to the assessment stage. Following the assessment process, officers recommended that Council approve all 14 applications. Since the publishing of the Council meeting agenda last Friday the 15th of September at 5 p.m, officers received advice from the Nagambie Rifle Club Incorporated that they wish to withdraw their Community Strengthening Grant application as they believe the project is no longer viable for their club. Officers have proposed an amendment to the recommendation that was printed on page 20 and 21. The amended recommendation now reads as follows. That Council award funding to 13 applicants for the total sum of $98,618 to the following organisations. Avenel Active Incorporated, to the value of $9,974, Crichton's Creek Recreation Reserve Incorporated to the value of $10,000, Euroa Agricultural Society for $10,000, Euroa Bridge Club for $3,550, Friends of the Violet Town Pool $10,000, Longwood Action Group Incorporated $10,000, Nagambie Golf Club Incorporated $10,000, Ruffy Recreation Reserve Incorporated to $3,347, Strathbogie Rangers Conservation Management Network to $7,850, Strathbogie Sports and Recreation Club Incorporated to the value of $9,893, Strathbogie Tableland Action Group Incorporated to the value of $3,416, Tablelands Community Centre Incorporated to the value of $5,720, and the Violet Town Bowls Club Incorporated to the value of $4,868. Recommendation 2, allocate an amount of $63,246 from the Community Program 2023 to deliver minor infrastructure upgrades and maintenance works on council-owned facilities in line with council's maintenance and renewal program of works. And recommendation number 3, reallocate an amount of $7,000 from the Community Grants Program 2023-24 to deliver community capacity building activities to support the community to identify, develop and deliver community projects.
Thank you, Director Frampton, and thank you for that update regarding the recommendation and the change in who is receiving those grants, and obviously the balance of the figures changing as well. Councillors, are there any questions of clarification for Director Frampton? Councillor Dickinson, a microphone? Thanks.
I remembered. Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I just have a question on the amended recommendation. Point 2, reallocate an amount of $63,246 from the community program to deliver minor infrastructure upgrades and maintenance works on council-owned facilities in line with council's maintenance and renewal program of works. Could you give us some more explanation of how that money is transferred or reallocated, please?
Thank you, Councillor Dickinson, and through you, Mayor. The allocation or potential reallocation of those funds is due to the fact that in changing the community funding model, we removed minor infrastructure upgrades from the eligibility criteria. We then witnessed a lot of inquiries relating to minor infrastructure upgrades and renewal works in terms of community groups wanting to apply for those that were then unable to. So council officers here are recommending that we look to reallocate the funds that were allocated to Community Strengthening Grant that are remaining to support a building maintenance program of works on those community assets.
Community assets or council?
Council community assets.
Council community assets.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And Councillor Murray.
Can I just ask a question, Director, of the point 3 there about the reallocation of $7,000? Do you think that reallocation will will enable the community to better will facilitate the community to be able to apply for particular projects in the future that might be more suitable.
Thank you, Councillor Murray, and through you, Mayor. Yes, so previously in the last 12 months, council officers delivered a program of capacity building following last year's grants program, and we would look to actually strengthen that to potentially encourage people to create ideas, create project plans, work to a budget, support them with grant writing workshops and a range of things like that to actually upskill them for other grant streams as well as our own. There's a range of capacity building strategies that you can employ. They might be workshops, they might be training, they might be online learning opportunities that we would look to utilise those funds to support and benefit the community groups and associations right throughout Strathbogie Shire.
Thank you, Director Frampton and councillors for those questions of clarification. If Councillor, do you have a question of clarification? No, you'd like to move the motion? Councillor,
with your permission,
Weatherill, yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Could we invite Sally to move this motion?
We could invite Sally to move the motion if she would
be
like.
Appropriate.
Councillor Sally, Councillor Hayes-Burke, would you like to move the motion?
I'm happy to move the motion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Page number. Do you need the page number?
Yes. 20 and 21, and it's the amended one. As per the report from Director Frampton. Thank you, Councillor Hayes-Burke. And do I have a seconder for the motion?
I'll second.
Oh, thank you, Councillor Weatherill. Would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor Hayes-Burke? Okay, thank you, Councillor Hayes-Burke. Councillor Weatherill, would you like to speak to the motion?
Perhaps I should say that in the future it would be my intention to ask council to audit most of these grant systems. I think that the priority of road repairs and maintenance should be put in front of community grant systems, and while they add a great value to a lot of community organisations, ratepayer dollars spread around over our primary assets, our roads should take priority. And I think council needs to do a complete audit on the money spent on distributing money and the administration cost of that distribution.
Thank you, Councillor Weatherill. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Murray?
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to speak in favour of the motion. And just to say that I think this is money well spent. There are lots of applications here which I think are really worthy of our support. It's a little bit disappointing to me that there is an amount of 63-odd thousand that wasn't allocated. I think there is perhaps some issues there that maybe in the future we might need to have a look at to see whether the capacity building amount makes a difference, or whether we should think about other broadening out the criteria anyway. But look, I thank those community groups that have put their applications in, and I thank them for their hard work, and officers for assessing those. I think that's it's been terrific. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. If no other council wishes to speak to the motion, I shall put the motion to a vote. Can I see a show of hands for all those in favour, please? And against? And declare that carried. And Councillor Weatherill, are you going to retrieve Councillor Rayburn? Thank you very much. And I can confirm that Councillor Rayburn has returned to the chamber at 6:43 p.m. We now move to page 30 of the agenda, item 11.2.4, School Crossing Supervision Program, Goulburn Street, Nagambie. Director Frampton, may we have a summary of the report, please?
Thank you, Mayor Binks, and through you. School crossings play a critical role in community safety when assisting children and families crossing the road before and after school. School crossings are key to making roads safer around schools and are highly valued by the community. As per Council's resolution on the 21st of March 2023, Council exited the School Crossing Supervision Program on the 10th of July 2023, making the relevant workforce redundant and handing the program back to the state government, the Department of Transport and Planning, DTP, the responsible authority, after several unsuccessful advocacy attempts. Council has received feedback from the Nagambie Primary School community on the importance of children's safety and road safety at this site, with a number of concerns being raised. Council's decision to exit the service was based on several factors, primarily the inadequate funding received by Council to deliver a service on behalf of the state government. Council was subsidising approximately 60% of the cost of the program delivery. Council has been advocating to DTP for a fully funded program. This advocacy began in October. This advocacy has been unsuccessful. Council has been communicating with DTP regularly to try and work towards a solution for the Goulburn Street and Nagambie crossing. This report details 4 options for Council to consider, including the associated limitations and opportunities and advantages associated with each option, along with the potential financial implications. There is a recommendation for Council's consideration on page 30 of tonight's agenda.
Thank you, Director Frampton. Councillors, are there any questions of clarification of the officer regarding this item? Councillor Murray?
Thank you. Director, is it, you make the comment there that the advocacy has been unsuccessful. Is it not the case that we have managed to shift the responsibility for 4 of the 5 sites to Department of Transport and Planning as opposed to us?
Thank you, Councillor Murray, and through you, Mayor. Yeah, that is correct. However, our advocacy for a fully funded program has been unsuccessful.
Thank you, Councillor Murray and Director Frampton. Councillor Dickinson, you have a question?
Yeah, perhaps just some clarification, please. Would the Department of Transport contribute to the funding as they have done in the past on a 60-40 ratio basis for that particular school? If we were to come to the party and say, well, if the council was to come to the party and say, we'll do a normal 60% funding, will the department fund the other 40%?
Thank you, Councillor Dickinson. Through you, Mayor. Our communications with Department of Transport and Planning to date have indicated that they will not allow us to re-enter for only one crossing, even at a 60-40 split. They have indicated that if we want to get funding for one crossing, we are required to jump back into the whole program.
Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. Any further questions or clarifications? Question clarifications? So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Can I just clarify how much the cost of funding that one particular crossing at Nagambie might be? Just an approximate figure.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. The approximate figure to deliver the service is around $15,000 to $20,000.
Thank you. Do you have another question clarification, Councillor Dickinson? Yes.
Yeah, that 15 to 20,000, I think I read it earlier today, that it was 10,000 per school and then 15,000 if it was a one-off school. I think I read that somewhere.
I think that's referring, sorry, to if you don't mind, Councillor Dickinson, I believe that was when we had the full funding from the department and we were averaging, it was a bit over 10,000 per school. Yes, Director.
Page 34.
Yeah. The current costing for the salaries in itself is approximately $13,000 to $14,000 per year. So
where did I get the 10,000? Oh, here it is. Yeah, page 33. There's 10,000 figure there, and then in 34 it's 15,000. 10,000 per school. Option 1, yeah, 10,000 per crossing per annum. Page 33 down the bottom.
So, sorry, that's the cost to council, because if we were to re-enter the program, we would receive approximately $6,000 to $7,000 per crossing from the Department of Transport. So that's the cost estimated to be $10,000 per crossing per annum to council.
So
out of ratepayer pockets.
yeah, so I'm confused. Then what's the 15,000 relate to?
When you add, so the total cost of delivery when we deliver the service is approximately between 15 to 20,000. We haven't factored in all of the on costs associated with the actual management of potentially my time, my manager's time, etc., into the delivery. We actually are out of pocket per crossing at least $10,000 per crossing, closer to 15 if you were to add on the on costs. The reason that it works out to be around, we get to actually pay salaries, it is around about $15,000.
So in option one, should it be 15,000, not 10,000?
No, because
Can I ask
Please.
the opposite, please?
yeah, you can. But I was just going to try and explain it maybe in a way.
Sorry, what?
I was going to try and explain it in a way that maybe might help, but Rachel?
Yeah. So we receive approximately $6,000 to $7,000 per crossing. That changes. The figure that we have there is detailed the cost to council out of pocket. So what we actually have to cover from a ratepayer base or through our budget.
So option one, Councillor Dickinson, refers to if we were to re-enter the full program, so that if we had the funding for if we were to re-enter the full program of the school crossing supervision, it would cost us approximately $10,000 per crossing. With
60/40.
Yeah.
Is it? Got
And the 15 to 20 is because the state government has told us that if we were to just take on one crossing in the Shire, they will not fund us the 60/40. So that's why it goes 15 to 20,000 cost to council, given the cost to employ the the crossing supervisor and the other on cost.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Director.
Thank you, Councillor. Dickinson, gosh, I almost called you Councillor Tingday. I'm getting muddled. Okay, councillors, can I have a motion, please? And Councillor Rayburn, can you state your motion?
Thank you, Mayor, and through you, Mayor, I'd like to move the recommendation as printed on page 30 be adopted by council.
Thank you, Councillor Rayburn. Do I have a seconder for the motion? Councillor Hayes-Burke. Thank you, Councillor Hayes-Burke. Would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor Rayburn?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I know this is not what the community of Ngambie is requesting of council, but for us as a council, we have to stand on our own 2 feet to be seen to be looking after our whole community and not just giving up on just one issue. I believe that the school crossing supervision is not a council project, it's a state government project, and the state government should be taking up the full cost of this, not the council of Strathbogie.
Thank you, Councillor Rayburn. Councillor Hayes-Burke, would you like to speak to the motion? Thank you, Councillor Hayes-Burke. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Murray?
I'd like to speak against the motion.
Certainly, Councillor Murray.
Thank you. Thank you, councillors. I'd like you to consider a few things about this particular recommendation or the motion that Councillor Rayburn has put. On March the 23rd and October the 22nd, we moved motions about this particular matter, and in both of those we talked about child safety being our primary concern. Now, I want to argue that it ought to continue to be our primary concern, and what that means is that safety is the concern that we ought to be worried about, and not particularly necessarily money, but safety is the number one primary concern we should be thinking about. There has been in October when we looked at this last year, we made the statement in I think number 4 of the motion that we moved that no change to service was going to result for the users of this important service, and I think that no change ought to be the result for the community in Ngambie, that we ought to be funding. We ought to be funding the continuation of this program, which I think is important in that community. Our decisions ought to be based on the benefits for the community both now and in the future. I think we've been involved in this for 50 years, since 1975. I think we should continue this particular service and make sure that the service is available to all our members of our community. I understand that Department of Transport and Planning are filling in for the other 4 which are on their roads. I think we should be doing our bit, pulling our weight and providing it for services that are on our roads. We have reduced our expenditure in this particular area and saved ratepayers about $50,000 by our advocacy work and by making sure that the other crossings are taken over by Department of Transport. I think rather than spend the $7,000 on an auditing particular thing, we ought to be moving that money and spending it on providing a person to hold a sign up and to make sure that our children are safe there. So I'd like to continue advocating for the community and for the children over at Ngambie. I don't think that we need to leave children unsupervised in crossing roads. I think it's important that we continue this service, and I think we ought to be working hard for the safety of children in our communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Councillor Dickinson, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, I'd like to speak against the motion. A school is a school. Until this matter is resolved, Council could fund or reimburse the school for the employment of its own supervisor. It's an extremely busy road. It leads onto the industrial area of the township, and heavy vehicles are constantly travelling along it. In more recent times, a large industrial building has been erected where kit homes are being built and supplied to the Waterways Lifestyle Village. The Discovery Caravan Park has also relocated a large number of its flood-damaged homes to these premises for repairs and then returning them. These large vehicles/homes pass constantly on Goulburn Street, both ways, and are an added risk to the school community. We have a mid-year budget review in December, and funding can be provided at that time if necessary. Council also has reserves that it can draw from, as it has done in the past, for example, the National Rowing Championships. Morally, I can't support this motion. Arguing over whose responsibility it is to fund this crossing is potentially putting lives at risk, but I won't be a part of it.
Thank you, Councillor Dickinson. Councillor Weatherall, did you wish to speak to the motion?
Councillor Paul and Councillor Ridge have spoken extremely strongly on this particular question. Ngambie does not support the council motion. It is my opinion that I should move an amendment to the motion to add on. Sorry, we better go back. I need to replace most of the motion.
And then
We'll have to get
Councillor Weatherall.
Okay.
If you're replacing most of the motion, it would not be in the spirit of the motion. So
Yeah, there's the challenge, isn't it? You want me to reword it?
No, I just said if you're going to replace most of the motion, amendment has to be maintain the spirit of the motion. So you'd need to let us know what your amendment is before we can ascertain whether it is indeed an amendment.
Okay. I'll foreshadow a replacement motion.
An alternate?
Yes. And that will consist of option 2, supervise the Goulburn Street crossing at full cost to council, making the service council's responsibility. Full stop.
Thank you.
So I am now not able to move an amendment, but I am speaking and supporting both Councillor Ridge. Oh, we lost that. The important thing here is that the school children in Ngambie are at risk. There are significant issues, and Reg highlighted them down to the minute detail. It's a priority that council put up the money and pay up and fund this crossing ASAP, and no dilly-dallying should be allowed to stop the process occurring quickly and efficiently. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Weatherall. Councillor Rayburn, would you wish to exercise your right of reply?
Yes, thanks. I very much appreciate what everybody said, and I understand the safety of our children is paramount. But at the end of the day, it's about we as a council being true to our word that we are not here to look after school crossings. We're here to maintain and to do a road safety audit of the street to ensure that all the signage and the line works and all that are up to scratch, but we are not here to employ personnel to stand there as a lollipop to help children across. And that's something I've always believed in, and that's the reason why I moved the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Rayburn. Okay, councillors, I'll put the motion to a vote. Can I see a show of hands? All those in favour, please. And against? I haven't finished yet. So, councillors, the vote is tied. So in accordance with sub-rule 70 of our governance rules, I'll be using my casting vote to vote in favour of the motion. So the motion is carried. And would you like a division, Councillor Weatherald? Certainly, Councillor Weatherald. So we have, can I see a show of hands, all those in favour? We have Councillor Rayburn, Councillor Hayes-Burke, Councillor Binks plus casting vote. And against, we have Councillor Murray, Councillor Dickinson and Councillor Weatherald. Thank you, councillors. We now move to page 41 of the agenda this evening, Council's role in waterways management, Goulburn River from Hughes Creek to Goulburn Weir, including Lake Ngambie. Director Frampton, may we have a summary of the report, please?
Thank you, Mayor Binkson, through you. For many years, Strathbogie Shire Council has been appointed as waterway manager under the Marine Act 1988 for Goulburn River from Hughes Creek to Goulburn Weir, including Lake Ngambie. Safe Transport Victoria, now incorporating Maritime Safety Victoria, is the organisation responsible for appointing waterway managers and safety on waterways in Victoria. It's understood that the Shire of Goulburn was first gazetted as waterways manager in the late 1980s. Following amalgamation, the role was re-gazetted in June 2012 to the Shire of Strathbogie. The appointment continues until such time that the gazetted waterway manager advises Safe Transport Victoria that it no longer wishes to perform the role. In line with the recommendations passed by Council on the 16th of May, Council has ceased contract 20/21-22 with the boating safety operations provider. We have led an advocacy campaign and sent correspondence to various minister and shadow ministers calling for a fully funded program. Council has met with various stakeholders in the Ngambie Waterways Advisory Committee regarding the matter. As at the time of writing this report, there was no confirmation from the state government to provide a financial payment to waterway managers to cover the cost of performing the role. Officers continue to liaise with the state government. The purpose of this report is to provide an update on the matter, give consideration to a range of options Council has for the future management, and recommend a position that is financially responsible and in the best interests of the municipal community. Given that full funding has not been achieved by the 31st of August, officers were recommending that Council withdraw from the role of Waterways Manager effective from the 1st of October 2023 and advise safe transport accordingly. There is a recommendation printed on page 41 of the agenda for your consideration.
Thank you, Director Frampton. I just wish to advise the meeting that it appears that we've lost connection with Councillor Hayes-Burke at 7:02 p.m. I've just noted that. I have just messaged her to see if we can get her back into the meeting, but given we still have a quorum, we'll continue the meeting even without her presence, and hopefully she can rejoin us. But we do know that she is joining from overseas and can prove challenging. So thank you for that, and sorry to interrupt your introduction there. So, councillors, are there any questions of clarification of the officer regarding this item? Councillor Weatherald?
I perhaps, rather than ask a question, would perhaps like to move. No, because I want to carry this item over to the October council.
Just a point of order. I'd like to. I wanted to move a motion in a moment. I thought you were asking for questions.
I was asking for questions of clarification.
I am.
Yes. Yep. So if there's no questions of clarification, councillors. There's no questions of clarification. Councillors, can I have a motion, please? And can you state what your motion is? Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move a deferral motion which reads that the debate on this matter be deferred until the October 2024 meeting to allow officers to gather more information.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Do I have a seconder for the motion? Councillor Dickinson. Thank you, Councillor Dickinson. Can you just confirm, you said October 24, you mean 23?
Sorry. Oh, Jesus. Sorry.
No, year.
A year. Yeah, so
Yeah.
2023, sorry.
Thank you. And Reg, you're happy with October 2023? Thank you, Councillor Dickinson. Thank you for picking that up, Director.
Yes, I am. I didn't have the speaker on.
Thank you, Councillor Dickinson, and thank you for picking that up, Director Tingay. I missed it as well. Much better. Okay, we don't need to debate the deferral. Can I just see a show of hands for all those in favour, please? And against, and declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. We now move to page 49 of the agenda, item 11.3.1, tender for contract number 23-24-02 road resale program 2023 to 2024. Director Adamak, may we have a summary of the report, please?
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. As a part of Strathbogie Shire Council approved 23-24 capital budget, selected roads have been identified for resealing. This will improve safety, increase the life of the roads, lower ongoing maintenance costs, and decrease the frequency of maintenance activities. To implement the resale program, tender documentation was prepared for public advertisement. Under this contract, 23-24, it is planned to reseal selected segments of 31 council roads, which were prioritised based on third-party road condition assessment. The total work package expands across 45 kilometres in length. The reseal work also includes reinstatement of line marking with long-life thermoplastic marking, installation of raised reflective pavement markers as required and when applicable on those road segments. Through public advertisement in local and state newspapers, Council invited tenders for the work under contract number 23-24-02, road resale program between 28th of 7th 23 and 28th of 8th 23. At closing of tender, 5 tender submissions received. These tenders have been assessed, evaluated by council officers, and in summary of results detailed in this report. It is recommended that Council award the lump sum contract for Boral Resources Victoria Proprietary Limited for a total of 1.425,804.06, including GST, based on the tender evaluation outcomes. The prioritisation of rehab and reseal program hinges on the finding of third-party road condition audit. These two programs are aligned in their pursuit of shared objectives: the extension of the lifespan of the current road network, thus delivering optimal returns on investment. In the 23-24 budget, a total amount of $2.149 million has been allocated for these initiatives. Council officers will take measures to ensure both programs are executed with this allocation. This will be accomplished by giving precedence of road segments which are most critical needs and determined by outcomes of the condition of the audit.
Thank you.
There is a recommendation on page 49 and 50 for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Adamak. I keep cutting directors off before they give us the recommendation on page. I apologise for that. I think because I've got it up in front of me. Councillors, are there any questions of clarification for the officer regarding this item? If not, councillors, can I have a motion, please, and can you state what your motion is? Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move the recommendation as listed on page 4950 of the agenda.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Do I have a seconder for the motion? Councillor Rayburn. Thank you, Councillor Rayburn. Would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor Murray?
Yeah, I'd like to say how important this road reseal. I think is one of the core functions of the Shire in terms of moving people and goods and so on around the community safely and efficiently. And I think this goes a long way to improving that in a Shire which has so many roads and so many roads that need attention. So I thank everybody for their involvement in it, and I look forward to better roads in the future.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Councillor Rayburn, did you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor, and through you, Mayor, I'd like to endorse what Councillor Murray just spoke about, but also to our community. I know it's taken a long time for us to get here, but we're getting here. I went for a drive up around Strathbogie yesterday, and yes, there's some roads that do need some work, but we're trying our best, and we're only a very small shire with limited resources, and we are trying to advocate for more resources through our mayor, through the MAV, and through the federal and state governments. So all we can do is keep trying. We can't spend all our money on roads at the moment because we still have other works to be done within the shire, but we have allocated a lot of money this year to our road network.
Thank you, Councillor Rayburn. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? If not, councillors, I'll put the motion to a vote. Can I see a show of hands for all those in favour, please? Against, declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. We now move to page 55 of the agenda, item 11.3.2, extension of contract numbers 14-15-17, 14-15-20, 14-15-21, 14-15-22, and update on contract number 25-26-2 landfill tender. CEO Solomon, may we have a summary of the report, please?
Thank you. Thank you, and through you, Mayor. In 2022, councils in the North East and Goulburn Valley came together to undertake another collaborative process for waste services. From this process, council awarded tenders at its February 2023 meeting for curbside collection, commingled recycling, glass and FOGO processing. Contract CN 252602, landfill processing and disposal, was not awarded at this time due to the presented options not being cost effective for council and subsequently ratepayers. Officers are currently working with adjoining councils to facilitate a joint tender process, with this to be recommended for awarding by council in early 2024. Tender documentation is currently being drafted, and given the likely value of the contract, officers have engaged an independent probity advisor to assist with the process. It is also determined at the 23rd of February council meeting that officers provide an update on the reopened tender process. The report before you tonight provides an update on the tender process for CN 252602 to exercise the additional year extension to Council's existing waste contracts that were originally awarded in 2014 as a 9-year plus 1 year option extension. This will enable a smooth transition to Council's new contracts to be implemented effective 1 July 2025. Officers are satisfied with the current contractor's performance, and in addition, to seek another year for a 1 year period is to seek an alternative contractor for a 1 year period is not considered a cost-effective solution or in the best interest of our community. Councillors, there is a recommendation on page 55 of tonight's agenda for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO Salomon. Councillors, are there any questions or clarification regarding this item? CEO Solomon, I just had a question regarding, I know this item doesn't speak to the purple bin, which we've scheduled to bring in that 2025 period, but I understand that perhaps Moira Shire was able to introduce their purple glass bin early, and I wanted to understand if there was a possibility for Strathbogie to do that as well.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. Moira Shire Council was one of the councils that put up their hand to be part of the early rollout of the new waste process and have not introduced purple bins or the glass bins. They've actually introduced glass drop-off points at each of their transfer stations. They'll be introducing the purple bin or the glass bins to their community by December 2024, which is 6 months earlier than our foreshadowed 1 July 2025. If we did bring in and introduce the purple bins glass recycling forward, Council would need to find additional dollars funding to purchase the bins and undertake broad community education and engagement outside of the state government funded rollout. And so in our opinion, it's not in the best interest of the community to undertake this process now. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you for that clarification. Councillors, can I have a motion, please? And can you state what your motion is? Councillor Rayburn?
Thank you, Mayor, and through you, Mayor, I'd like to move the recommendation as printed on page 55 and 55 be adopted by Council.
Thank you, Councillor Rayburn. Do I have a seconder for the motion? Councillor Murray. Thank you, Councillor Murray. Would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor Rayburn?
Thank you, Mayor, and through you, I'd like to congratulate council officers on doing this, because at the end of the day, we don't want to be left with 12 months of no collection. We worked on a program with, I think it's 14 other councils to start off in 2025. So this just brings us in line with that, which will be the best benefit for our community. So I think at the end of the day, we're working towards getting better recovery of our curbside, FOG, our recycling, and additional to our glass collection also. And also I note that the landfill processing and disposal is still under negotiation.
Thank you, Councillor Rayburn. Councillor Murray, would you like to speak to the item? Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Sorry. If not, would you like to speak to the motion? Yes, Councillor Weatherill.
I was part of, in the 2014, a part of the Strathbogie Shire that showed the leadership in putting together about 7 councils. Now it's grown to 14. It is a very significant device to organise the contractual arrangements over a long period to gain economic scale. That was extremely successful. Strathbogie Shire, like Moira Shire, has shown considerable leadership in waste management. one can give a lot of credit to Moira Shire, but Strathbogie Shire stands equally, and some of our results delivered are quite outstanding. But I was somewhat disappointed and mystified in August when I tried to seek some changes to our corporate plan that would enable some modest attempts to speed up and provide further services, which the CEO rightfully says might cost us more money. But there is no expenditure more worthy for climate change purposes than protection of our environment. And the disposal of waste is a hell of a problem. It's an expensive problem, but no effort should be made. So I am annoyed that I was misled by my fellow councillors who now this comes up for signing and sealing. So there was an opportunity, which I was told quite clearly it wasn't there. Anyhow, I'm a bit disappointed about that, but we shall move on because waste management is a subject that offers many challenges. And I note with some delight that in November, the glass recycling collection things will start to become operational. Mm-hmm. Hopefully in Strathbogie Shire, we will have some collection points. We're not. Mayor CEO doesn't know anything about it.
I think you're talking about the container deposit schemes. Yes. Councillor Weatherald is referring to another scheme which is also being rolled out.
But it's an important part
it is
of the
absolutely
waste management process.
Absolutely.
And certainly one of the major things, and I'm closely involved in it at the moment, with a filling up of a bin with diapers fairly, well, it may not be everyone's cup of tea. The opportunity to manage the diaper content to landfill, which is 17%, if that was collected as a clean service without contamination, then diapers become a recyclable item and not a landfill item, and removal of 17% of landfill out of the system by effectively doing diaper management control, I believe is a worthy subject. And I believe that the former home of the Chief Executive Officer, or no, that's a terrible statement, the former employer of the Chief Executive Officer, Shepparton City Council, have instituted a collection point for diapers. So there is some, I'm sorry, I'm trying to say that there are opportunities
absolutely
to become proactive in waste management, and no cost should be seen as a barrier to being proactive.
Thank you, Councillor Weatherald. Any other councillor like to speak to the item? If not, I can update you before we go to the vote that we did introduce a rebate on the reusable nappies, which has been incredibly successful, and we've continued to roll that out, and we continue to work with our our waste team to find ones. But let's continue the conversation, Councillor Weatherald, as to other opportunities, and we'll look to see what they're doing over in Shepparton around the diaper thing. So thank you. Councillors, I will now put the motion to the vote. Can I see a show of hands for all those in favour, please? Against, and declare that carried. Thank you, councillors.
With your indulgence, Mayor, I've got a little bit to learn. Thank you for offering to help.
My pleasure. Page 60 of the agenda is where we're up to now, councillors, and item 11.3.3, contracts, works and grants awarded under delegation the 1st to the 30th of July 2023. Director Tingay, may we have a summary of the report, please?
Thank you, Mayor Binks. This report highlights contracts that have been awarded under delegations, as well as the quick response grants also that have been awarded under delegation, and this is from the period from the 1st 1st of August to the 31st of August. There is a recommendation on page 60 of the agenda for Council's consideration to note those that have been awarded under delegation, whether that be through the Chief Executive Officer, Acting Chief Executive Officer, Director or Acting Director, and also the grants either through the Chief Executive Officer or Acting Chief Executive Officer. Thank you, Mayor Pinch.
Thank you, Director Tingay. Councillors, are there any questions of clarification regarding this item? I'd just like to note it's really great to see the quick response grants in here. I know that's a new process in our grant thing, so I was just intrigued to understand how it's working. Either Director Frampton or Director Tingay?
Thank you, Mayor Binks, and through you. We're finding really good uptake through the quick response grants. I know that there are about another 4 that are about to be assessed. So our quick response grants seem to be working particularly well for the community with a much more streamlined process and system for them. So we're really excited to see how many we actually do get, and possibly starting to get worried that we may be oversubscribed. So we may need to cross that bridge when we come to it.
Okay. Thank you for that update, Director Frampton. Councillors, can I have a motion, please? And can you state what your motion is? Councillor Rayburn.
Thank you, Mayor. Through Mayor, I'd like to move the recommendation as printed on page 60 be adopted by Council.
Thank you, Councillor Rayburn. Do I have a seconder for the motion? Councillor Weatherald. Thank you, Councillor Weatherald. Would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor Rayburn?
No, thanks.
Councillor Weatherald? No. Any councillor like to speak to it? If not, councillors, I'll put the motion to a vote. Can I see a show of hands? All those in favour, please. Against? Declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. We now move to page 65, item 11.3.4, contract number 2022 to 2023 01, Weir Road and Reedy Lake Road. Director Tingay, may we have a summary of the report, please?
Thank you, Mayor Binks. At the August 2022 Council meeting, Council resolved to award contract number 22-23-01 for Weir Road and Reedy Lake Road upgrade, and that contract was awarded to Seven Creeks Excavation following a competitive tender process. The project was scheduled to commence in October 2022. However, the project was delayed due to the ongoing rain that we were experiencing in that time, and then the unfortunate major flood event in October. Following this rain event, the design was revised to incorporate an increase in the pavement depth. The variation of contract 22-23-01 was varied at the April 23 Council meeting to incorporate this change with a revised commencement date of September 2023. As such, the contract has been let following that resolution by Council. Since the April meeting, officers have carried out traffic counts on Weir Road to ascertain traffic volume given the closure of Kerwin's Bridge following the October 22 flood event. The vehicle count per day is now at 320 vehicles per day in comparison with a significant lower vehicle count per day when the bridge is open. Given this change and to ensure the road design and subsequent works are in line with safety standards, a new road safety audit must be carried out on the current design. Under the current vehicle count, the road would need to be widened to 6.2 seal and a 1.5 metre shoulder to meet the design standards. As per designer's advice, the safest and the recommended option is for the road to be a 9 metre pavement, which would require the removal of at least 126 trees and the installation of guardrails. Officers understand that this would be a significant concern to the community and therefore do not believe it is option at this time. With concerns raised by the community, a road safety audit by an independent expert has been initiated. It is recommended that Council wait for the findings of the road safety audit to determine what options are available and if there are any risks identified, and that these risks be addressed prior to commencing works. Given the high vehicle count, sealing Weir Road is not an option at this present time, and it's not in line with our current IDM standards, infrastructure design manual standards. As per our IDM standards, the minimum standard of a rural road design with more than 150 vehicles per day is a 6.2 metre pavement with 1.5 metre shoulders both sides. A further traffic count will be required post the opening of Curwins Bridge to understand the traffic flow and apply those numbers to a new road safety audit. The two traffic counts and road safety audits will be pivotal in understanding whether we are able to seal the road or any other control measures that may have to be implemented. There is a recommendation on page 67 for Council's consideration. Thank you, Mayor Binks.
Thank you, Director Tingay. Councillors, are there any questions of clarification for Director Tingay on this item? Councillor Dickinson?
Thank you, Mayor. Given that it appears we're not going ahead with this road, I'm just wondering why another road safety audit to the cost of $3,080 is being done. What purpose does it serve?
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. Councillor Dickinson, I guess with the closure of Curwins Bridge, there's obviously an increase in traffic on Reedy Lake and Weir Road. As I've mentioned, Weir Road is currently sitting at around 320 vehicles per day when it's usually under 150 vehicles per day. It's important to get the road safety audit undertaken to assess the pavements and widths of the design that the contract's been led on to see that meets the current traffic count that is occurring on that road. So hence the expenditure of just over $3,000. It's really to ascertain if there are any other mitigating measures that might be required before commencing works, and that we rectify that at this point rather than rectifying it in the middle of the contract. And also I think it's about being honest with our community that we're re-looking at the design to make sure it's right, given the change in the vehicle movement on that road.
So you are anticipating that works will commence of some kind, is that right?
Yeah, so we are waiting the outcome of the road safety audit, so it's a little bit too early to preempt perhaps what might come out of that. Obviously, the contract has been let, so we're also currently working through at the moment what those contractual implications are. But certainly, we just need to get an understanding of what the road safety audit recommends, and if there are any changes, that we look at those and see what's required before we commence any works.
Okay, and could I ask another question?
Certainly, Councillor Dickinson.
There was $1.82 million allocated to this project. What happens with that money now?
So through you, Mayor. So it's still in the budget. It remains in the budget. Obviously, we've got a contract that's been let with the contractor to deliver the works. So the money is still there and still allocated for the road to happen. So until we know if there are any changes required, it still remains as is in the budget.
So it's in the budget. Is it earmarked for this particular road / bridge?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Not the bridge, the road, just the road.
The road. So there's 1.8 million just set aside for that bridge. For that road.
For the road.
Excuse me.
As per the contract that was let and approved by council at the April 2023 council meeting.
And is it possible that we might have to pay that to the contractor for failing to fulfil our duties?
We're still working through the contractual arrangements about what that looks like at this point in time.
Thank you.
Councillor Murray?
Yeah, so that was really my question that is alluded to there is, do we know what the costs might be for the delay, for us needing to delay this these particular works being undertaken by the contractor?
So through you, Mayor, and without sort of breaching anything commercial in confidence with the contractor that we have engaged, we are still working through that process at this point in time. It's a little bit too early to tell because I said we are waiting for the outcome on the road safety audit. So at this point, it's a little bit too early to provide any advice.
Did you want another question, Councillor Murray? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. A road safety audit, something that we would normally do when we're deciding to work on a road or upgrade a road. So that's my question.
Yeah, I'll hand over to the CEO to respond, Councillor Murray.
So when we are doing road upgrades of this kind, yes, there is a road safety audit undertaken, and there was one undertaken by the previous manager of engineering services, who was also a qualified road safety auditor himself. Because of the changes due to the closure of Curwins Bridge, that's why we need to go back and do another reassessment. Going forward, we will have a road safety audit program for all of our roads to ensure that they are providing safe passage for vehicles, and we'll also ensure that we have a procedure for when we undertake our road upgrades, what would trigger a road safety audit. So I have a very clear process going forward.
Thank you.
Councillor Weatherold.
Yes, a question through the Mayor to Amanda. I became a little lost when you indicated that the current count was 120 vehicles per day, and that there was some query whether the road to service 120 vehicles needs to be sealed or not. Your wording indicated to me that sealing was not a priority, where I would have thought that was not the way I should have been understanding what you were saying.
So through you, Mayor Binks, thank you, Councillor Weatherold. So the vehicle count is actually 320. Not 120. So 320 vehicles per day. So essentially, given that current higher vehicle count, sealing Weir Road, as it was let in the contract, is currently not an option because the vehicle count is too high and the number of vehicles that are on that road.
You now made a contradictory statement. No. Please say that again.
Yeah. Okay. So given the numbers, given the significant higher count of vehicles that's on the road now, sealing is not in line with our infrastructure design manual. Because
is or not?
Not because the vehicle count is too high. So as per the infrastructure design manual, the minimum standards of a rural road design, and for it to be sealed, the vehicle count needs to be under 150 vehicles per day, and it's currently not under 150 vehicles per day.
So we are talking about a sealed road.
Microphone.
We are talking the road has to be sealed.
No, it can't.
CEO Solomon might be able to help clarify it. It is.
At this stage, thank you, and through you, Mayor, at this stage, that is what the road safety audit, this current road safety audit, will advise us whether we can seal the road at this level of traffic under the circumstances, and if we do, what other mitigating circumstances or what other considerations we need to do to the road, or whether it is unable to be sealed at that current 4-metre pavement width. So we're waiting for the road safety audit to guide our next steps. and we will come back to council and the community once we have the outcome of that road safety audit.
Thank you, CEO. So there is undoubtedly more work to be done in this particular area. With that in mind, the recommendation as printed, I would like to cross out the word endorse and replace it with noted that the contract number 22-23-01 will not be commenced until an independent road safety audit is completed, and 2. So I've just, instead of endorsing, I'm seeking to note. I think there's a serious difference. And in this particular area, we are certainly in a moving field. And I think we should leave our officers to guide us through it.
Thank you, Councillor Weatherald. So you're happy to second. So Councillor Weatherald's moved the motion with a slight change from endorse to note that contract number will not commence until, and the rest remains the same. And seconded Councillor Murray.
Yes, thank you.
Councillor Weatherald, did you wish to speak to the item?
I think this is a very difficult subject, and I do not wish to get myself into more fiery areas. This goes back to when I was in council some 12 years ago, and it has been a failure by other councils that have led this council into this very problematic problem. Hopefully it will be solved, and with Kerwin's Bridge potential, I think there is serious answers available to council, and we shall address this as soon as is practicable.
Thank you, Councillor Weatherall. Councillor Murray, would you like to speak to the item?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Okay.
Oh, the amendment, you mean?
To the
amendment?
motion. It's
That's
a
now
motion.
the motion is acceptable.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the motion. Sorry.
That's the motion.
Yes, I do wish to say that I think the road safety audit ought to be done. It ought to be done as a regular part of the process, and I'm glad to see that it's now being done here. So it's good.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Councillor Dickinson, did you wish to speak to the item?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'd particularly like to pay recognition to the Kerwin's Bridge community members, in particular Paul Lancaster, who pursued this relentlessly and in the immediate term has alerted council to the implications of pursuing a course that was probably doomed to fail. It's now back to square one and looking at the additional financial costs that will be incurred by ratepayers.
Thank you, Councillor Dickinson. Anyone else wish to speak to the item? If not, councillors, I'll put the motion to a vote. Can I see a show of hands for all those in favour, please? Against, and declare that carried. We now move to page 72 of the agenda. Item 11.4.1, Strathbogie Shire Council Audit and Risk Committee confirm minutes of the ordinary meeting held on the 2nd of June 2023 and the strategic planning meeting held on the 12th of July 2023. Director Tingay, may we have a summary of the report?
Thank you, Mayor Binks. This report seeks that Council receive and note the confirmed minutes of the Strathbogie Shire Council Audit and Risk Committee meetings of the 2nd of June 2023 and the 12th of July 2023, as printed on your agenda papers, starting on page 72, there was a range of items that have been considered and discussed with the Audit and Risk Committee, including our ordinary meeting and then also strategic planning workshop that we undertook with the Audit and Risk Committee to also look at the charter and also the work plan as well for the next 12 months. There's a recommendation on page 72 for Council's consideration. Thank you, Mayor Binks.
Thank you, Director Tingay. Are there any questions of clarification regarding this item from councillors? If not, councillors, can I have a motion, please? And can you state what your motion is? Councillor Murray?
Thank you, Mayor. Can I move the recommendation as listed on page 72 of our agenda regarding the Audit and Risk Committee meeting?
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Councillor Weatherald, would you like to second the motion? Thank you, Councillor Weatherald. Would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor Murray?
No, thank you.
Would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor Weatherald? Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? I would like to speak to the motion and thank the Audit and Risk Committee for their ongoing work with us and the continued work that we're doing around, especially around, I think, the risk. It's a really interesting area to be involved in, to understand the risks to a council, particularly a council of our size in the current financial and employee kind of situation. There's lots of challenges, and I really appreciate their guidance and their expertise in assisting council in the challenges that a council of our size and of our challenges has to come up against. And I think we're very fortunate to have a very skilled and engaged Audit and Risk Committee who are really helpful in ensuring that we are meeting all sorts of best practice requirements and guidelines. So I'd like to thank them.
May I join in with you on those kind words?
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Councillor. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Weatherald. You're excused. Councillors, I'll put the motion to a vote. Can I see a show of hands? All those in favour, please. And against, and declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. We now move to page 76, item 11.4.2, Council Policy Review, Public Interest Disclosure Policy. Director Tingay, may we have a summary of this item, please?
Thank you, Mayor Binks. This policy outlines Council's role in the public interest disclosure process as a nominated agency that can receive disclosures, which is a requirement under the Public Interest Disclosure Act 2012. The policy is due for review and only minor administrative changes have been made. There is a recommendation on page 76 for Council's consideration. Thank you, Mayor Binks.
Thank you, Director Tingay. Councillors, are there any questions or clarification of the officer regarding this item? If not, can I have a motion, please, and can you state your motion? Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move the motion, recommendation listed on page 76 of our agenda.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Councillor Weatherald, would you like to second the motion? Thank you, Councillor Weatherald. Would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor Murray?
No, thank you. I think it's important, but there's no great change there, and I'm happy with the motion as it stands there. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Weatherald, would you like to speak to the motion? Any other councillor like to speak to the motion? If not, councillors, I'll put the motion to a vote. Can I see a show of hands? All those in favour, please. And against, and I declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. We now move to page 81 of the agenda, item 11.4.3, Council Policy Review, Privacy and Data Protection Policy 2023. Director Tingay, can we please have a summary of the report?
Thank you, Mayor Binks. The Privacy and Data Protection Policy has been reviewed by officers, and updates to the policy include administrative changes. The policy has been overdue, and we have undertaken that review. The last review was undertaken in February 2018, and a review of Council's existing policies attempts to provide the update on any legislative and reporting requirements to Council. As I've said, they're basically administrative changes that have been made. There's a recommendation on page 81 for Council's consideration. Thank you, Mayor Binks.
Thank you, Director Tingay. Councillors, are there any questions or clarification of the officer regarding this item? If not, councillors, can I have a motion, please? And can you state what your motion is? Councillor Rayburn.
Thank you, Mayor. And through you, Mayor, I'd like to move the recommendation on page 81 be adopted by Council.
Thank you, Councillor Rayburn. Do I have a seconder for the motion? Councillor Murray. Thank you, Councillor Murray. Would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor Rayburn?
Only just to say, as the officer just spoke, that it's only data administrative changes that happen, nothing toward that affects us greatly in the fact that it's just...
What an understatement.
making it, just twitching it just nicely, and I've got the governance officer over here making sure we do the right thing.
Thank you.
I forgot was helping.
Thank you, Councillor Rayburn. Councillor Murray, would you like to speak to the motion? No. Councillors, I'll put the motion to a vote. Can I see a show of hands? All those in favour, please. Against, declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. Page 86 of the agenda now, councillors. Item 11.4.4, Council Policy Review, Planning Permit Applications, Referral to Council 2023. Director Frampton, may we have a summary of the report, please?
Thank you, Mayor Binks. Yes, you may. This report presents, Council's review, Officer's review of the planning permit applications referral to council policy. This policy outlines the triggers for planning permit applications to be referred to a council meeting for decision. The policy is now due for review. The review has been undertaken by the Manager of Planning and Investment. Since the policy has been in operation, there has been an improvement in decision-making timeframes and a reduction in the backlog of active planning permit applications. No changes to the current application of the policy are recommended. The policy has been updated solely with a revised next schedule review date of September 2025. The updated policy is recommended for Council's adoption. You will find that recommendation on page 86 of tonight's agenda.
Thank you, Director Frampton. Councillors, are there any questions or clarification for the officer? If not, councillors, can I have a motion, please? And can you state what your motion is? Councillor Rayburn.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you, Mayor, I'd like to move the recommendation as printed on page 86 be adopted by council. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Rayburn. Do I have a seconder for the motion? Councillor Murray. Thank you, Councillor Murray. Would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor Rayburn?
Yes, the reason I moved this, and the main reason, was to actually highlight to our community what the what an application for a planning permit, what triggers it that comes to council, and how any objections can be put in by the community. If our community puts in 5 or more objections, it comes to council. If a councillor wants to call it in, a councillor can call it in. An application that arises an issue of significant public interest, concern or controversy can also be brought to council. An application where officers believe the application or any issue arising in conjunction with this should be determined by council rather than officers. So then the main reasons why this policy is in place, so that, and as the acting director just stated, our planning has completely been revised. We are now operating at 90% approval rate. So what our policy is proving is that we're doing the right thing.
Thank you, Councillor Rayburn. Councillor Murray, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, I'd like to just endorse what Councillor Rayburn has said, and I think this strikes a good balance between cutting out some red tape and streamlining how we handle some of that red tape and our oversight role. So that's good.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Would any other councillor like to speak to it? If not, councillors, I'll put the motion to a vote. Can I see a show of hands? All those in favour, please. Against, declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. We now move to page 91 of our agenda, item 11.4.5, Council Policy Review, Media Policy 2023, Governance Advisor Carruthers. May we have a summary of the report, please?
Thanks, Mayor. Councillors, complementing your personal efforts and officer work, media is a important tool in ensuring that we achieve engagement with our community. The updated policy has strengthened the accountability and responsibility of the Mayor and the Chief Executive Officer or their delegates as our official spokespersons. It also outlines the roles of staff. The recommendations at the bottom of page 91.
Thank you, Governance Advisor Carruthers. Councillors, are there any questions or clarification regarding this item? I have one, which I did raise with Executive Manager Favaloro. and you may not be able to answer because I know she is an apology this evening. It's just regarding 4.2 in the policy. There was an amendment that was going to happen which didn't make the published version. And I just wanted to clarify that that had been updated before we approve it, that just when that related to training or a conference, that they could indeed speak to that item. I believe that that has been updated, and so it's slightly different from the published version.
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to take that on notice and see what changes we might need to make.
Thank you. Thank you, Governance Advisor Crothers. Appreciate that. Councillors, can I have a motion, please, and can you state what your motion is? Page 91 of the agenda.
Recommendation that Council 1, 2 and 3. Recommendation that Council adopt the update media policy 2023, items 1, 2 and 3.
Thank you, thank you, Councillor Weatherald. Do I have a seconder for the motion? Councillor Rayburn. Thank you, Councillor Rayburn. Would you like to speak to the item, Councillor Weatherald?
No, thank you.
Councillor Rayburn, would you like to speak to the item? Would any councillor like to speak to the item? Okay, thank you, councillors. Okay, we'll ask, can I see a show of hands for all those in favour, please? And against, and declare it carried. Thank you, councillors. We now move to page 96 of the agenda, item 11.4.6, Instruments of Appointment and Authorisation Update, S11A, Instrument of Appointment and Authorisation Planning and Environment Act 1987, S11B, Instrument of Appointment and Authorisation Environment Protection Act, EPA 2017, S18, Instrument of Subdelegation under the Environment Protection Act, EPA 2017. Director Tingay, may we have a summary of the report, please?
Thank you, Mayor Binks. Following appointments to vacant positions and officer position titles, several changes are required to be made to the S11A, S11B and also S18 instruments. These amendments have been made to the respective instruments and there is a recommendation on page 96 for Council's consideration. Thank you, Mayor Binks.
Thank you, Director Tingay. Councillors, are there any questions or clarification for the officer regarding these items? If not, councillors, can I have a motion, please? And can you state what your motion is? Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move the recommendation as listed on page 96 of our agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Councillor Weatherald, are you happy to second the motion? Thank you. Would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor Murray?
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor Weatherall?
This is a machinery matter.
You'll need your microphone. Thank you.
This is a machinery matter, an organisational management process, and I'm happy to see it go through.
Thank you, Councillor Weatherald. Would any of the council like to speak to the item? If not, I'll put the motion to a vote. Can I see a show of hands for all those in favour, please? Against, and declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. I'll move to page 101 of our agenda. Instrument of Delegation, S5, Instrument of Delegation to the Chief Executive Officer. Director Tingay, may we have a summary of the report, please?
Thank you, Mayor Binks. The S5 instrument allows Council to delegate the bulk of its powers to the Chief Executive Officer. The authorisation of these delegations to the CEO will ensure the ongoing efficiency of Council operations and a clear legal framework through which day-to-day decisions are made. The instrument also enables the elected Council to focus on strategic matters rather than operational decisions in accordance with the Local Government Act. There have been no changes to the current delegation. There is a recommendation on page 101 for Council's consideration. Thank you, Mayor Binks.
Thank you, Director Tingay. Councillors, are there any questions of clarification for the officer? If not, can I have a motion, please? And can you state what your motion is? Councillor Murray.
Can I move the recommendation as listed on page 101 of our agenda, please, Mayor?
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Do I have a seconder for the motion? Councillor Rayburn. Thank you, Councillor Rayburn. Would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor Murray?
Just to say that it's part of our efficient running of our council that we delegate some of our powers to the CEO that she can perform her duty efficiently and effectively. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Councillor Rayburn, would you like to speak to the motion?
The only thing I'll say is if we didn't do it, we'd be here every day doing this.
Thank you, Councillor Rayburn. Would any of the council like to speak to the motion? If not, councillors, I'll put the motion to a vote. Can you see show hands all those in favour, please? Against, declare it carried. Thank you, councillors. We now move to page 105 of the agenda, item 11.4.8, submissions, ministerial guidelines relating to payment of rates and charges. Director Tingay, may we have a summary of the report, please?
Thank you, Mayor Binks. The Victorian Ombudsman back in 2021 required an investigation into how local councils respond to ratepayers in financial hardship, recommended that the Victorian Government provide clear, consistent definition of financial hardship and issue guidelines regarding rates hardship relief. The Local Government Victoria has recently undertaken that public consultation on the ministerial guidelines relating to payments of rates and charges. Officers have made a submission covering three main areas for clarification, and those three areas being clarification on ratepayer categories. Number two, the involvement of third parties in assessing financial hardship, and three, broadening the scope of hardship and financial hardship policies. In addition, FinPro, which is an organisation, Financial Professionals, which is an organisation that we are a member of, have made a submission as well, which we also support their submission. The submissions for this process concluded on the 15th of September. There is a recommendation on page 105 for Council's consideration. Thank you, Mayor Binks.
Thank you, Director Tingay. Councillors, are there any questions or clarification regarding this item? If not, councillors, can I have a motion, please? And can you state what your motion is? Councillor Rayburn. Can you put your microphone on, please? Thank you, Councillor Rayburn.
I move that the recommendation printed on page 105 be adopted by Council.
Thank you, Councillor Rayburn. Do I have a seconder for the motion? Councillor Murray. Thank you, Councillor Murray. Would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor Rayburn?
Only to say that the recommendations put in by the CEO, I believe they are very worthy, and I believe that the community would like to know all about this. They can just read on our website after tonight exactly what we're stating in our recommendations to the Minister.
Thank you, Councillor Rayburn. Councillor Murray, would you like to speak to the item? Any other councillor like to speak to the motion? If not, councillors, I will put the motion to a vote. Can I see a show of hands? All those in favour, please. And against, and declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. We now move to page 110 of our agenda this evening, item 11.4.9, adoption of the 2022-2023 annual financial report Director Tingay, may we have a summary of this report, please?
Thank you, Mayor Binks. The annual financial report was prepared strictly in accordance with the applicable Australian accounting standards. The standards require the preparation of 5 mandatory statements, that being the comprehensive income statement, the balance sheet, the statement of changes in equity, statement of changes in cash flows, and statement of capital works. Council is also required to prepare 2 budget comparison notes with various explanations to the 2022-2023 annual budget relating to income and expenditure as well as capital works. Overall, the annual statement showed Council to be in a sound financial position, with the financial plan to be updated to reflect the end-of-year results and any items required to be carried over into the 23-24 year, both income and expenditure. There is a recommendation on page 110 for Council's consideration, and our Chief Financial Officer is on the meeting link to answer any clarifying questions that any councillors may have in regards to this report. Thank you, Mayor Binks.
Thank you, Director Tingay. Councillors, are there any questions of clarification regarding this report? If not, councillors, can I have a motion, please, and can you state what your motion is? Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Mayor. Can I move the motion as listed on page 110 of our agenda? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Do I have a seconder for the motion? Councillor Weatherall. Thank you, Councillor Weatherall. Would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor Murray?
I'd like to say that having had a look at this, I believe we have a healthy surplus. I note that our cash and liquidity is sound at the moment, and that we've increased our capital works by successful completion of capital works by about 85% compared to last year, which is something terrific.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Councillor Weatherall, would you like to speak to the motion?
It is my belief that this is a significant document. It's one that this council should celebrate. Part of our training program that when I first got here in July, we had a governance person assisting us, and one of the things that were highlighted was the opportunity for council to celebrate and promote some of its successes. And as Councillor Murray has highlighted, there are a couple of indicative items in the current document. So it is important that perhaps the Mayor can take on board that perhaps when Councillor Murray joins in signing this document, that a significant photograph is taken and that it be recorded in the press or in some other form of minor celebration, but it should be a little bit more than minor.
Thank you, Councillor Weatherall. Would any other councillor like to speak to the item? I'd just like to speak to the item, having been involved in it, I guess, in the Audit and Risk Committee capacity, and again, that going through that process and noting that the in one of the attachments, which is, that's those very formal documents, the increase in the number of notes, which really helps explain the financial statements. Being someone that doesn't come from a financial background and having learnt a lot in my 3 years on council today, it's been really helpful to understand those notes which accompany these financial statements. And I really encourage the community to look at that and to understand it. It helps explain, I guess, the breadth of works that council is responsible for delivering, and the different areas and what that looks like, and where those spends happen, and what the different amounts and summaries and everything mean. So I think it's interesting. I think when I was first here, I was probably a little bit bamboozled by this part of the process, and 3 years later, it's certainly making a lot more sense. So it's worth looking at, and I concur with Councillor Weatherall's comments. I think it is definitely worth celebrating, given especially the challenging year of COVID and a flood that we had in that period. Councillors, if there's no further councillors wishing to speak to the motion, I will put the motion to a vote. Can I see a show of hands? All those in favour, please. Against, and declare that carried. Thanks, councillors. We now move to page 116 of the agenda, item 11.4.10, adoption of the draft performance statement 2022-23 and draft governance management checklist 2022-23. Director Tingay, may we have a summary of the report, please?
Thank you, Mayor Binks. The Local Government Performance Reporting Framework is a mandatory system of performance reporting for all Victorian councils. The Local Government Act requires council pass a resolution giving its approval to the draft performance statement for the 22-23 period and the draft governance and management checklist prior to the formal approval by the Auditor General Victoria for their audit opinion. The draft performance statement shows consistent performance with previous years, with some metrics such as 0% for non-compliance of food safety, increased participations in our libraries, and also noting that the Avenel Library is now open past financial year, some level of participation in maternal and child, the same level of participation in maternal and child health service, which has been quite good, and 100% compliance with statutory planning decision making. The financial metrics identified sound and stable working capital ratio over 200%, lower percentage of loan and borrowing repayments compared to rates at 0.5%, and over 100% asset renewal ratio that helps keep a sound asset network. The draft governance management checklist focuses on a range of policies, plans and other documents with the aim to identify if a good sound governance framework is in place for our council. And once again, we have performed well with this checklist, answering yes against all the listed items in the good governance framework. As part of the process, the Audit and Risk Committee is required to consider the performance report and the checklist, and they did this at their meeting on the 8th of September. And as such, the committee requested to add a comment to one of the documents, and also recommended for the council to approve the resolution. There is a recommendation on page 117 of the agenda. Thank you, Mayor Binks.
Thank you, Director Tingay. Councillors, are there any questions of clarification regarding this item? If not, councillors, can I have a motion, please, and can you state what your motion is? Can I have a motion, please, councillors?
Yep, I'm happy to move the motion listed on page 117 of our agenda.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Do I have a seconder for the motion? Councillor Rayburn. Thank you, Councillor Rayburn. Would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor Murray?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Rayburn, would you like to speak to the motion?
All I'd like to do is congratulate the staff on their great work.
Thank you, Councillor Rayburn. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? If not, councillors, I'll put the motion to a vote. Can I see a show of hands for all those in favour, please? And against, and declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. We now move to page 122 of the agenda, item 11.5.1. The appointment of a councillor to the Chief Executive Officer Employment and Remuneration Committee. Director Tingay, may we have a summary of the report, please?
Thank you, Mayor Binks. Under the Local Government Act, a council executive officer employment and remuneration policy must be adopted by council, and this was adopted by our council on the 19th of October 2021. The purpose of the policy is really to set the remit of the committee and provide guidance around how council will seek independent input from a human resource expert. The membership of the committee that is currently comprises and is in the policy is the Mayor, who is the Chair, 2 councillors and also an independent member. our previous councillor Christy Hourigan, was endorsed to be on that committee for the 2022-2023 period. However, in late 2023, Councillor Christy Hourigan resigned from her role as councillor from Strathbogie Shire. So, in essence, this report seeks to replace Councillor Hourigan's vacancy on the committee until such time as the committee appointments are considered at the December 2023 council meeting. So there is a recommendation on page 122 for council's consideration. Thank you, Mayor Binks.
Thank you, Director Tingay. Councillors, are there any questions or clarification regarding this item? If not, councillors, can I have a... Oh, is that a question?
Yes, please.
Yes, certainly.
Can I ask, Councillor Sally Hayes-Burke is not currently present in this meeting. Is there a has she expressed her willingness to be on this particular committee?
She has, and
I don't want to dob her in when she's not here.
No, she has. Thank you for clarifying that, Councillor Murray. She has communicated with me when this was listed in our draft agenda item, and I have just checked again, and I haven't been able to get. She's not showing up as being online, so she appears to be continuing to have an issue with her connection at her end. But I did confirm again late last week that she was happy to be nominated for this position, and I confirmed with the CEO early today, should this happen, that we were still able to appoint her to the position, and the CEO confirmed that that would be okay. So we can proceed with the recommendation as listed. Sorry, I took the answer. If there's no further questions of clarification, councillors, can I have a motion, please? And can you state what your motion is? Councillor Rayburn.
Thank you, Mayor. And through you, Mayor, I'd like to move the recommendation as printed on page 122 be adopted by Council.
Thank you, Councillor Rayburn. Do I have a seconder for the motion? Councillor Murray. Thank you, Councillor Murray. You wish to speak to the motion, Councillor Rayburn?
No, thank you.
Councillor Murray.
No, I think Councillor Sally Hayes-Burke will make an excellent stand-in for Councillor Christy Hourigan, who was the previous member of that committee, and I note that that committee will be reconsidered its membership of in December of this year.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Does any other councillor wish to speak to the item? Councillor
Yes.
Weatherold.
I need to foreshadow that in December I will be attempting to move a reform of this particular process, and that there is, as the Chief Executive is the only employee under the control of Council, it is absolutely vital, without debating the issue too much, to have all members of Council do an evaluation of the Chief Executive and being part of a workshop annually to do this particular piece of work. There is no place for any independent person to be part of that particular process, because that person has no role in the employment of the Chief Executive Officer. So it is giving Council notice that I would be asking for serious review of this particular process, because I don't believe it has worked overly well in the past.
Thank you for your comments, Councillor Weatherold. Under the current Local Government Act 2020, it's actually a requirement that we have an independent member on the CEO.
We better change the act, because it's unsatisfactory.
Well, you better stand for state parliament. It is part of the current Local Government Act that we have an independent member, and as I've discussed with you previously, in that review process, the one that we just had this year, we met with the full council on 3 occasions and the committee met on 10 occasions. So we did come back to the full council regarding the CEO's performance on 3 separate occasions during, following that process. So there certainly is an opportunity for all councillors to participate in that process. And we have you may roll your eyes, Councillor Weatherall, but until you've experienced the process, I would hasten you to experience it until you start changing the Local Government Act.
I'm sure I have done so previously and been part of councils that have done evaluations on chief executive officers. So I'm well experienced in this particular area.
Very good. I look forward to your contribution. Councillors, if there's no further councillors wishing to speak to the motion, I will. No. I will put the motion to a vote. Can I see a show of hands? All those in favour, please. Against, and declare that carried. Thank you, councillors, and welcome Councillor Sally Haysbrook to the committee. We now move to item 11.5.2, monthly performance report. Director Tingay, may we have a summary of this report, please?
Thank you, Mayor Binks. This is our standard monthly performance report, so covering a whole range of service areas that council supports or provides. So whether that be through building, planning, customer service inquiries, waste management, transfer station data, and also an update in regards to the actioning of council reports and through council resolutions, any outstanding actions from resolutions, the review of council policies and adoptions of new policies, and also a record for the community in regards to informal councillor briefings that have been held from the 1st to the 31st of August. Busy month in terms of building. There were a number of, whilst council doesn't issue building permits, there were a range of permits that have been issued by private building surveyors within our community, mainly for dwellings and sheds this month. So there is a recommendation on page 126 of the agenda for council's consideration. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Director Tingay. Councillors, are there any questions or clarification of the officer regarding this item? Councillor Murray?
I would like to ask a question about the remaining request of original request data or date. The graph that's there, there seems to be a long sort of tail there of persistent requests lasting from June 22 right through till April 23. Is that a hangover still of what you think might be the flood issues, or is that what might account for that? Those quite persistent figures.
Thank you, Councillor Murray, and through you, Mayor Binks. Without looking into each of the individual items, because I note that there's 4 essentially in the corporate services area in 2020/2021. So we'd need to, whilst this report doesn't provide that level of detail, we would need to drill down to see what those are in the individual requests. Certainly, as you would see around other assets and road assets, obviously there are a lot of those, and it may be that it's waiting for future budget allocation, or there may be other investigations that may be required. There could be a whole range of factors. So other than kind of guessing the details, and obviously in the individual request that comes in, but as you will see, obviously assets is one of our bigger kind of input data from our community regarding follow-up, and there could be a range of factors.
Thank you, Director Tingay. Councillor.
Question through Mayor Binks to Amanda. The waste management figures for July and August for green waste bins collection showed perhaps an alarming tendency where the contamination grew quite considerably. Is there any explanation for this anomaly?
Thank you, Councillor Weatherald, and through you, Mayor Binks. I would need to take that on notice. We'd need to drill down into some of those statistics that are coming back. I agree. It is a changing landscape there. I'm happy to take that on notice and provide some further input to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Tingay. Are there any further questions or clarification regarding this item? If not, councillors, can I have a motion, please, and can you state what your motion is? Councillor Murray.
Can I move the recommendation as listed on page 126 that the report be accepted?
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Do I have a seconder for the motion? Councillor Rayburn. Thank you, Councillor Rayburn. Would you like to speak to the report, Councillor Murray?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Murray. Sorry, Councillor Rayburn. Any councillor like to speak to it? Councillor Weatherald?
Yes, I've pulled up page, well, it hasn't got a number, but it's item 11.1, and it's the time frames for planning department time frames from the 1st of July 23 to the 31st of July 23. And the top figure highlighted there is the excellent return of 90% on our major planning issues. But down below that, there are what I would call areas for the Chief Executive Officer to perhaps read these more carefully. The mean average days for the first one is 130 days when the mean is only 78 days. And that, I would think, we're behind our competitors. We've come up with a great 90%, but the next item down below that is 139 days, and we've got a 78-day medium. And below that, we have a 215 days with a 128-day medium. So these are areas of the planning department where there's a tendency to be bogged down. These perhaps should have been sent off to VCAT or something to resolve, but to have people in a planning situation for 215 days as an average is a very expensive process from a development point of view. So this Shire has a vested interest in having a look at these figures, and perhaps over time we will get down to the medium at least. But, if we're a long way behind, I do draw council's attention to this particular factor.
Thank you, Councillor Weatherald. I think officers will look into that and come back with it.
One final thing, I can note that the figures are much more readable, and I congratulate the staff on the presentation.
Thank you, Councillor Weatherald. If no other council wishes to speak to the motion, I'll put the motion to a vote. Can I see a show of hands for all those in favour, please? And against, and declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. Page 145 of the agenda now, and we move to item 11.6.1, Acting Arrangements Chief Executive Officer Annual Leave. CEO Salomon, may we have a summary of the report, please? 145.
145.
Mm-hmm. Governance. Oh, we're handing over to you. No.
I'm happy to provide
acting arrangements.
Yes. This is not the approval of my annual leave, Mayor, and
No.
through you, it is actually the approval of the acting arrangement while I am on leave. So I have requested and has been approved a period of annual leave effective 1 December 2023 to 1 January 2024 inclusive, in accordance with the Local Government Act 2020, an application for annual leave in long service leave, personal leave or other leave of absence is to be approved by the Mayor on behalf of the Council, which has been done. Section 1123 of the Local Government 2020 allows the Council to delegate a CEO the power to appoint an acting CEO for a period not exceeding 28 days. This period of leave is exceeding that threshold. The recommendation seeks Council endorsement to appoint Amanda Tingay, Director of People and Government, to the acting chief officer role for the period 1 December 2023 to 1 January 2024 inclusive. Thank you. Councillors, there is a recommendation on page 145 for your consideration.
Thank you, CEO Salomon. Councillors, are there any questions of clarification for the CEO?
The day count?
Wetherald?
The day count? How many days? You said over
20. It's the threshold is to come to council for over 28 days, and that period.
This is longer.
Yes, that's
so. What are the number of days?
30.
Thank you. Isn't that funny?
30 days.
30 days.
So, no, it's from it's just over.
It's over the threshold.
Yes. Councillors, if there's no... Thank you, Councillor Wetherald. On page... Thank you, Councillor Wetherald. Do I have a seconder for the motion? Councillor Murray. Thank you, Councillor Murray. Would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor Wetherald? No worries. Councillor Murray, would you like to speak?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? If not, councillors, I'll put the motion to vote. Can I see a show of hands? All those in favour, please. And against, and declare that carried. We do not have, councillors, we do not have any notices of rescission, urgent business or confidential business to consider. Councillor Dickinson, at our August meeting, which you weren't present at, we adopted the work we did with with our trainer, Andrew Douglas, our statement of intent, internal working document, and alongside that, our 10-point plan, and let me just get the full name for it, strategic practice guidelines. And as you were not present at that meeting, we couldn't have you adopt and sign it, but I would like to invite you to sign those documents tonight if now that you are with us this evening. Obviously, you were quite instrumental in that whole process up until we did that formally at the meeting. So we have the documents here for you to sign because you weren't able to join us that evening. Can you put your microphone on, please?
I said I won't be signing them tonight. I want to read it first.
Certainly. I would remind you that they are as they appeared in our draft agenda papers and agenda papers up until that meeting. But if you would like to read them and sign them at the October council meeting, would that be sufficient?
See what they say.
Okay. Thank you. We'll go to, so there's nothing, Councillor Murray, we have to sign some documents. I'll ask you to stick around, please. There's no further business then to consider this evening. The next monthly meeting of Strathbogie Shire Council is scheduled to be held on Tuesday, the 17th of October 2023 at the Nagambie Lakes Regatta Centre at 66 Loddings Lane, Nagambie, commencing at 6 p.m. There being no further business, I declare the meeting closed at 8:30 p.m. on the dot. Thank you, councillors, officers, Tom, and anyone watching, and good night.